Finding an apartment at the end of rent moratorium is stressful. Explaining to landlords what I do for a living is incredibly okay, boomer. There's only one thing left to do. Let's dye our hair about it. What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. His name is Achilles. Buddy, how are you? Do you want to say hello to everyone? Now that I'm recording and petting you, you don't want to scream. Welcome back to another episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit in Pathfinder 1st Edition. Today, by request, we're optimizing around a race you don't see at the table a lot, the Adaro. If you're liking what you're seeing, remember to like, subscribe, ding the bell, stay caught up on all your... Yes, Achilles, that will help them stay caught up on all their stuff. Remember that Patreon is the #1 way to support this channel and gets you a cool Google Sheet where this build and many other builds are on. But for now, let's hit it. Okie dokie, so the Adaro. Holy shit, this is a weird one. I say that so much. I think I've gone past the days when I'm making 1st edition Pathfinder videos that I'm not like, oh wowie, this is so normal. Look how neat this is now. We're full on into the weird at this point. If you don't know what this race is, here's a super old video. Follow this card right up here. TLDR, the Adaro is a slightly stronger merfolk that gets a bunch of really cool abilities. Sometimes we'll be optimizing around those sometimes cool abilities. Namely, we're looking at the Rain Frenzy and Speak with Sharks ability. I want to look at poison use, kinda. If there was an alchemist that got an animal companion that wasn't a construct rider, perhaps. Also, poison tends to not scale super well and is a video unto itself for this edition. Anyway, Rain Frenzy. When fighting in the rain or during other stormy weather, the Adaro acts as though affected by the Rage spell. An Adaro gains this benefit even if it is underwater, but only as long as it remains within its swim speed of the water's surface, that being, of course, a swim speed of 50 feet. The Rage spell, a 3rd or 2nd level spell depending on who you're looking at concentration plus 1 round per level, gives affected creatures a +2 morale bonus to strength and con, a +1 morale bonus on will saves, and a -2 to AC. It's otherwise identical to a barbarian's rage, except you're not fatigued at the end. Essentially, a baby buff when it's raining. Secondly, Adaros can communicate telepathically with sharks to a distance of 100 feet. This communication is limited to simple concepts, such as attack, come, and defend. How do we make these work in practice, you say? Well, I'm so happy to tell you. So far as raining goes, it's a real mixed bag depending on your campaign, where you are in the world, and frankly how much your GM is tracking these kinds of things. The druid in the party wants them to track storms for call lightning anyway, so it's not super far-fetched, but your mileage will definitely vary. Both, like, if you're playing in a desert, an Adaro won't see this very often, versus if you're playing in a rainforest, it will be very easy to turn this buff on. We, however, will be accessing this via the Dousing Rain spell. It's available to bards, druids, hunters, shamans, skalds, and witches, all at 2nd level. Lasts for rounds per level at medium range, creating a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high, indeed downpour of rain, or essentially a square in which standing in buffs us. For the duration of this spell, it's raining, non-magical fires are automatically extinguished, which has utility, believe me, Age of Ashes. All creatures and objects in the area gain fire resistance 5, not bad. The conjured water is conductive, and whenever a doused creature takes electricity damage, it takes 1 additional point. At 6, 12, and 18, the resistance and damage goes up. Cool, probably helpful at some point. Mostly for us, though, we just want to have the ability to spend a standard action, get a buff. Unless your GM is tracking the weather. It may be very easy for you to get the thing you want. It sort of depends on them, really. Secondly, for that shark empathy, how are we going to make that work out, you ask? Well, the easiest way to do it, and also the hardest thing to build around for this damn video. I often say, we went through so many changes for this. God, we did. We so did. Is to have a shark animal companion. Animal companions are strong as it is. let alone if you can communicate telepathically with one out to 100 feet. Worth of you telling your shark to hide, go here, be on the other side of the conflict that's about to kick off to make sure you have a flank, so on and so forth. And it shall be the hammerhead shark that we choose over the vanilla shark. Why? Because it's more codified, mostly. We'll eventually go to large, get blind sense out to 30 feet, has a respectable AC. It's no war cat, but it's not bad either, and it's very fast in the water. This build is not necessarily assuming that you'll be in the water all the time, though it will take us much longer to get to playable, at least as far as the shark is concerned, if there's no water around. I played a merfolk and giant slayer for like the end of book 1 and the start of book 2. Fun fact, kids, maybe this is a Tommy's words of wisdom. It turns out most humanoid settlements have to be built on or around water because we need that to function, ergo there's probably a river somewhere, which is essentially just your giant highway. If you can make the battle happen closer to the river, you make the battle happen in straight up Value Town. Now, today it's 20 levels of the Vanilla Hunter. Bounced around again so much. For a while I wanted to try to force in Hexenhammer Inquisitor to try to get some hexes going around. Almost a shaman for similar reasons, but the mammoth shaman takes too long to get an animal companion, and I didn't want to force on the like animal ally feats, though certainly you could. We are choosing the hunter because that will give us the animal companion, pad out the less than great animal companion through aspects, give us access to the spell we need and lots of other tech spells as well, while also giving us the teamwork feats to succeed both in melee and in ranged combat, because truly we're a big ol' switch hitter here. What I'm thinking mostly with this is we want to build an Adaro archer who stands in his own rain cloud shooting arrows out of it, kinda like Eeyore but full of angry instead of full of sad. For our traits, reactionary, of course, it's first edition, you knew you'd see it. We'll also grab Beastkin, choosing sharks, to give us the ability to use Speak with Animals as a spell-like ability at will. So this plus the ability to communicate telepathically should really help you have a very mobile scout. Dangerously close to still thinking that Sacred Huntmaster / Hexenhammer would be really good for this, just so you could guarantee a casting of invisibility on your shark to come around and nom people to death. But it's just the cost is too darn high. For our stat priority, dexterity is the most important one, followed closely by strength because we're an archer, and that's what makes us a switch hitter. Carry around some two-handed martial weapon. For when they close with you, drop your bow, draw that, hit them with that instead. You're just as valuable in combat as you were standing in a rain cloud with like an adaptive longbow firing out. We want wisdom and con for our casting stat and our HP. We don't need intelligence or charisma. Before we talk about the feats, I want to hit the key spells first because, well, they're key to making our animal companion function. First, it's a 3rd level spell for druids, so presumably a 3rd level spell for us as well. Fins to Feet. Targets a willing touched creature at hours per level. You transform the target's feet, flippers, or tail into legs and feet, allowing it to walk on land. This presumably turns us into a not bullet, I guess. The target loses its swim speed but gains a base speed appropriate for a humanoid of its size, which I think tracks out to 40 for a large shark. If the creature is immersed in water for a round, the transformation gives them back their swim speed. 1 round after leaving the water, the transformation occurs again. The spell only works on merfolk, tritons, seals, fish, and other creatures whose bodies or limbs are used mainly for swimming and are not suitable for walking. It takes us to level 7 to get this, but in mid to late game play, where it may be harder to set up ambushes near the river or on the beach or wherever the water is, in the sewers, I suppose, it keeps the choice of creature you made relevant. It's so wild to me that it's very easy to breathe water in Pathfinder if you don't breathe it normally, but the ability to breathe air just takes so darn long. A nice GM might let you cast air bubble and like reflavor it as water bubble so you can have your shark not die. Otherwise, we're looking at another 3rd level spell for us, air breathing at 2 hours per level. Your transmuted shark can breathe air. Hooray. Lastly, carry companion for when you just really have to have your animal companion portage and you don't want them to suffocate. Turn them into a figurine of wondrous power. Easy peasy. All right, now let's talk some feats. They're very, very stereotypical archer feats. Without our animal companion, we're kind of just have the ability to buff our strength out even farther between animal aspects and rage. It's like having a barbarian dip on your, like, ranger or whatever range character you made, but only at the cost of a spell. Precise shot is first because, of course, kids were assuming we're using that elephant in the room. What's that? Follow this card, because firing into melee sucks. Then point blank shot, because it turns out sometimes you'll be within 30 feet and you want that +1. Just not as a mandatory tax. Reckless aim right after. Take a -1 penalty to your AC for a +2 competence bonus on your attack roll, buying off the deadly aim penalty, which we're assuming we have, because again, elephant in the room. If you roll a natural 1 on a ranged attack made with this bonus, you automatically hit a random adjacent creature that threatens the intended target. Don't fumble. Or don't shoot at things that are next to things if you're using this thing. Hero points are important. Next, it's rapid shot, then many shot, then clustered shots, rounding out that archery trifecta for the -2 on attack rolls for an extra shot, and the first shot of the round in a full attack action, firing an extra arrow, culminating with stacking up all of your shots for the purposes of damage reduction and for the purposes of breaking the massive damage rule. Clustered shots is real rude. We'll next take Totem Beast, presumably choosing the strength buff, just so then you could kick on the dex con buff or whatever it is. If you're getting hit a lot, you might want dex. If you're, like, forcing your shark to suffocate, you might want con, and also you've probably violated nature and lost your powers, but we're not talking about that. Point is, it buffs out things even more, which is exactly what we want here. Next up, improved precise shot. This allows our ranged attacks to ignore the AC bonus granted to targets by anything less than total cover, so shooting through friendly squares, and the mischance granted to targets by anything less than total concealment, generally invisibility. So this gets around blur, this gets around various other magical shenanigans that give targets concealment. It's a very good quality of life feat that I very often don't take, but hey, we have the room here, why not? We'll take favored animal focus, once again choosing presumably the bull, for a +8 to strength on our big angry hammerhead shark monster. And then lastly, improved initiative. Because remember kids, if you made it this far, there's usually not a reason to not. For the hunter's teamwork feats, the bonus feat at 2nd level will be outflank, because we already have precise shot, mostly. And should you happen to be playing in an aquatic game where that shark is doing more stuff from the beginning, that makes the shark even scarier. Doubly so if the hunter's melee weapon of choice is like, what is a piercing weapon with a high threat range? Say like an S-Talk. The crit provokes from the shark, who gets a free attack, who does more damage, on and on and on. We see what it is. Next, Escape Route. An ally who has this feat provokes no add-ops for moving through squares adjacent to you or within your space. So long as you and the shark are moving next to each other, you don't provoke. When you need to get out, it's real good. Doubly so if in the end of the game you happen to be riding your weird land shark thing. Don't talk about this one very much, but coordinated shot. If your ally with this feat, aka the shark who got the feat for free, is threatening an opponent and not providing cover to that opponent against your range attacks, you get a +1 on range attacks against that opponent. If your ally with this feat is flanking that opponent with another ally, it becomes a +2, making the less than full BAB class better at hitting things. Blood for the Empire gives you a +2 morale bonus on attack and damage rolls against a target that was damaged by an ally with this feat within the last round. So your shark hits them, you then get a bonus to attack and hit. You hit them, the shark gets the buff Circle of Buff. When an ally with this feat dies within 30 feet of you, you get a haste sometimes. Don't let your shark die. By this point, you have a wizard casting haste. It's fine. Don't do that, it's rude. Improved outflank comes next to let you flank with your shark no matter where the pair of you are standing when you do end up going into melee. And then coordinated charge. When an ally with this feat, your weird slap hands shark monster, charges a creature that is no further away from you than your speed, as an immediate action you can charge. You must be able to follow the normal charge rules. This is even scarier underwater where you're super fast, and again, lets you just flip the script really hard if you need to go from shooting to melee. Then its pack attack lasts way late. When you are adjacent to an ally with this feat, the first time you melee attack an opponent, you can immediate action 5-foot step even if you've otherwise moved. We have a real slow move speed sometimes when we don't fins defeat ourselves, so this seems real good late game necessity. in case you get caught with your pants down by the BBEG who teleports in, right? For our magic items, of course, Big Six, real important, both for you and the shark. Follow this card right up here. We'll tell you more about that. I wish I could say, eat the gillyweed. This will make the shark better off. There are some items that can help aquatic creatures survive on land, but they're very cost prohibitive. That's why I want to grab everything that I can in the spell department, just to make sure we have the thing even when we're not getting paid. Now, I suppose at some point, wings of flying for your shark, probably super cool. However, given that sharks only have a belt, chest, and eyes slot, you're gonna have to do a lot of magic item shenanigans to just make like the Uber belt. Talk to your crafter, you kinda need them. And of course, there's a bunch of other crazy stuff that the hunter can get up to. We're not talking about that here. We'd be here forever, and I'd be double speaking. You can follow this card right up here. Get caught up. Control water, obviously very good for us. If we're near water, we can suddenly make an environment where we water types thrive. Anyway, that's all the time I have for this monstrosity. What do y'all think? How have your aquatic adventures on land gone? Did you get as much street shark from this as I did? Child of the 90s, that's me. Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Starfinder's up next week. What will we do? Who knows? We'll see you next time. And hey, really quickly, you're watching the credits right now. I wanted to say this really fast. After a very long week of getting a lot of dumb shit together, the found family I made in the pandemic and we have signed the lease. It's moving forward. At the end of August, I will be moving to sunny Santa Clarita, California. And I wanted to take this moment personally to thank everyone on this list that's going down right now. Never did I ever think that I, the kid born in small town Missouri, would be moving to LA County, and your support helps me have that mobility to see the freaking world. I am eternally grateful. Thank you all so much.